Good morning and welcome to the Sports Carnival live from the Trauma Center studios. If you start a sentence with, not to sound like a racist, but too late, you just did. Here's your host, Dave Carney.
You know, Chad, that and somebody starting off a joke like this. And you know you have got yourself a problem. Now, when somebody starts off a story, you know this is going to be epic when they're like, so this chick last night. Then you're like, okay, let's hear the rest of this one. But
that's a good start. Yes.
Yes, spot on there. Hey, Chad, you've got jokes, but one thing I will say, and this was something that was thrown out into the ether yesterday by Lisa Mateel from Dunkin' Donuts. You're no Patton Oswalt, man. I just got to give that to you.
I appreciate
love
that.
To say it, you're no Patton Oswalt. Sorry.
Well, I actually have just to prove it. Okay, so I've got a couple of things. Hashtag not Patton Oswalt is one. Baby. And then, I don't want to get graphic. Okay, so I don't want this to go down the wrong road or anything. But
you do want to get graphic.
I do want to get a little bit graphic, and just hold on. This went much better in rehearsal. Hold on, here we go. Here's the proof in the pudding right here. Okay,
look at that. No similarity.
I am not Patton Oswalt. That's proof. Look at this. Look at this guy.
That's you.
Standing by a DeLorean. This was on Dave's happiest day of his life right here.
Right.
Was the same day, right? Isn't it the day he got married?
It was.
Yeah.
And it was also the anniversary of the Back to the Future movie. It was, 30 years after the Back to the Future movie? That was 2015.
Yeah.
So,
and if you see your son John is right here. Your son John looking at me kind of in a curious way, like, what in the hell is this guy doing? What is that?
You know,
that's
John.
A DeLorean, John.
John in this picture actually resembles Patton Oswalt a lot closer than you do, okay? And little known fact for John, who now is, by the way, like the coolest guy in the whole entire world, right? Because he's nearly 18. Thinks a lot about his jawline and mewing and things of this nature. And I'm like, hey, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, it's a way to make better jaw. But at the time, super huge Ratatouille fan. So he and Patton Oswalt like that.
So how does the jawline thing work? What are you talking about? It's the way you cut your beard?
No, there's this thing that I've found out about called mewing, okay? And apparently...
Don't know what that is.
I had no fucking clue that this was a real thing either. Apparently, if you depress your tongue in certain ways, like over a period of time, and then like, I don't know, it's some way of muscle movement and memory of your jawline, it will give you a quote-unquote more handsome face. This is what practice about. Bro, for more time than I would actually wish to share. Lots. He's a good-looking kid, but I think that's kind of natural. I'm like, dude, your mom was pretty much a smoke show, and your dad's a 6. So you're going to wash out at like an 8, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have obviously not practiced that, or I'm not doing enough reps. I don't know which. So I just press my tongue against the bottom of my mouth, and I will look thinner. You know what? I may do that.
I don't know the efficacy or actuality of any of these things. It just happens to be a thing that apparently is taking YouTube by storm, which is kind of like this program, taking YouTube by storm. That's this mewing video. So listen, if I've told you something you didn't know and you go out there and you all of a sudden have a really handsome jawline, thank John Carney.
This is the same generation, though, that we're eating Tide Pods and planking in bathrooms. So keep that in mind. Look, Rob Dog's checking. He says, let's go Knicks, beat the Bucks.
Yeah.
Hold on, Rob Dog. I don't know about that.
I don't know about that either. But tonight at 7 o'clock, Rob Dog's New York Knicks with newly acquired Jalen Brunson. I think a reinvigorated Julius Randle. And don't sleep on Cam Reddish out of Duke. Remember, Cam Reddish, RJ Barrett, both played together. RJ Barrett plays for the Knicks as well. They also played with this guy named Zion Williamson. Now, Zion is more talented than both Cam Reddish and I would say RJ Barrett put together. But the thing that both of those guys have, Chad, over Zion, they play basketball on a pretty consistent basis. For their NBA teams. Yeah.
And don't sleep on Julius Randle. Randle has stepped it up this year. You know what, Rob Dog? I'm pulling for the Bucks, but I think this is going to be a bit of a challenge tonight for the Bucks. I think that they end up winning, but I think it's going to be a pretty tight game. I think this game I've watched so far, I've been pretty impressed.
Well, listen, Rob Dog, to your Knicks' credit, and Tom Thibodeau's done a really good job. Derrick Rose coming off the bench. There's a lot of reasons why the Knicks are good, but the Jalen Brunson signing from this last offseason, which Jalen Brunson's dad, Rick Brunson, was a really gritty NBA player for a number of years. Jalen Brunson's dad's an assistant coach on that team, Chad. I didn't know if you knew that. That's one of the reasons that Jalen ended up going to the Knicks and why the NBA actually thought there was some tampering involved with Jalen Brunson's contract. They actually investigated a little bit of tampering. But here's the thing. Jalen Brunson brings the kind of headiness that Tom Thibodeau needs as a point guard to that team. Now, Derrick Rose isn't the guy that he was when he was the MVP, the youngest MVP in league history. But Jalen Brunson's a really good player. Here's the thing for the Knicks, though. They're not top end. The top end talent for the Knicks doesn't come close to the top end talent for the Bucks. Sure. And what we've seen from Giannis over the course of this early season shows to me that while the Knicks could probably hang with them, especially through 3.5 quarters, when it comes down to it, brass tacks is going to give the Bucks this victory. I don't know that they'll cover the spread. As a matter of fact, I haven't even looked at this number because I don't generally bet the Bucks. They're not a team that I like to bet.
No, it's probably not a good idea. And then Joey Miller's checking in saying, go Phillies tonight. Yeah. I concur, but it is Verlander versus Nola. I think this was a smart move on the Phillies' part by moving Zach Wheeler to game 2, giving them a better chance, just kind of conceding the Verlander and hoping Nola maybe pulls something out, but I don't see that happening.
You know, it's going to be interesting. We were supposed to have Bob Ibeck on this morning, former PR director of the Cubs. Bob was really sorry, but he got a last minute.
He wasn't.
No, he was. Listen, Bob is so accommodating. He would have tried to push things around in order to make room for us. But I figured it was not something that we needed to squeeze in here. But I did get a chance to ask Bob Ibeck his thoughts on the World Series and what he thinks is going to become keys, Chad, for at least these first couple of games. We'll talk some World Series baseball later, but Bob did give me his thoughts. Jason Breacher, P1 Breacher, asked us this morning, mewing, should I try this if there will be improvements? Don't laugh out loud. Apparently, and again, this is something that I have not tried, but apparently this is science. Now, I don't know, it's just internet science.
Science.
It's apparently science.
That's all you have to say. It doesn't have to be true.
It's science. It's the one true opinion.
Fake news.
It's science. All right, we've got some science. How about this little nuke beer coming up in just a second? I'm Davies Chad. This is the Sports Carnival broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios.
I can't imagine a week going by without going to the Recovery Room Bar and Grill, 7th and Mississippi Street in downtown La Crosse. I'm serious. If you know me, you know that my favorite restaurant, not just my favorite bar, but my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, is none other than the Recovery Room Bar and Grill. Whether it's their burgers, their pizza, their wings, their gyros, their prime rib, or their fish, it's all good. And the wait staff, my gosh, some of the friendliest and coolest people that you'll ever meet. Matt, the owner, great friend of mine. The Recovery Room, 7th and Mississippi Street. I can't go a week without it. How about you?
Hello, this is Professor Fission for Nuke and Nuke Light, the world's first nuclear beer. Brewed and nuked in 1956 and recently found in Warehouse 14. How's it still fresh, you may ask? Well, thanks to our friends Cesium-137, Stromium-90, and Plutonium-239, these beers will stay fresh for another 90 years. Not only does Nuke and Nuke Light have 10 times the kick, but you're sure to be a hit at the party because it helps your urine glow in the dark.
Nuke and Nuke Light. Pick up a case today before it melts through your grocer's floor. Handle with care. Yummy.
And back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the one and only Sports Carnival. Remember, you're never too old to learn something stupid. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
I love that. And you know what else I love, Chad? I love our amazing supporters here on the Sports Carnival. Of course, we're broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios, powered by the Recovery Room Bar and Grill. But we've also got a great friend of the program, Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate. If you are looking to buy or sell your home, especially in today's current home buying and selling market, you've got to go with somebody who knows what they're doing. That is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Your mortgage needs, they're going to be handled by the official mortgage team of the show. That is the Midwest Mortgage Team of Land Home Financial, Michael Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi. And of course, our good friends, Brian Sandmeyer and Tony Russo of Preferred Insurance in downtown La Crosse. Preferred Insurance, auto, home, life, flood, and business insurance. Tony Russo is also a gambler like me. And last night, Chad, Tony Russo made himself some money. He sent me over one of his plays. Tony put a little bit of action down on the Baltimore Ravens plus 2.5 points versus Tampa Bay. And boy, oh boy, you know, we've talked a lot about Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers this year and how these guys are looking a whole lot different than they were before. And Morning Woods checking in this morning with just a piece of straight up sound advice. Just get regular tongue exercises, and it's guaranteed to put beautiful smiles on everyone. And Woody, you're not wrong about this, not even a little bit. And I don't care, what your pronoun is. I think you can pretty much agree that that is a thing.
No matter what your pronoun is, good point.
I'm just saying, no matter what your pronoun is, you can enjoy a little tongue action, right? So good call.
Did I mention that my adjective, because I have my own adjective, is handsome Chad? So
yeah, that is kind of cool, isn't it?
Because it's not true. That's why it's funny. Neil Duda says, "Do you remember the movie What About Bob?"
Fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Richard Dreyfuss, Bill Murray, fantastic movie. Yeah. And let me just tell you, I'm sailing. That was fun. That was fun. Marengo Mike checking in from Marengo, Illinois is like, no Bob Iback today. I'm sorry. Bob's on a Philly radio station. So Bob, of course, pimps some great stuff from Nyko Sports. Nyko Sports, you can see that Giannis and the Bucks framed Milwaukee championship collage behind me. I'm assured that Bob this morning is pitching some Nyko Sports wares to the folks in and around Philadelphia. So, Chad, the cool thing about Nyko Sports is they get official licenses from everybody, Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, but they make limited run things, and they coincide with major events, right? So, Albert Pujols, when he came back this year and looking for his 700th home run and stuff, Bob was kind enough to send me some really cool Albert Pujols things, which will be given away on the program. And listen, I know that we've been sort of teasing this, but as the show has gotten going here, we're into just week 3 of the program. This is end of week 3. We are just about to take off into a whole new level. Starting next week, Chad and I will be not only streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, and Twitter, but we've also got an audio live stream that you can listen to this bad boy in the car if you can't watch it. It's going to be like the old times when it was on radio. So you're just going to have to download the Podbean app, and starting on Monday, you'll be able to listen to us live.
The old times when it was on the radio.
No, this is great. He's like, Marengo Mike's like, idea for the future, fireside chat with Ken Cooper. Now, the reason that won't happen, as Chad would understand, is that Ken is currently a wage slave for the radio mines. And so therefore,
I was like, who's Ken Cooper?
Ken Cooper's like,
you second base for the Brewers, that Ken Cooper?
He's the guy that you called, what was it? Anonymous voice guy.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm sorry.
I like that guy. All I ever heard was his voice, but I liked it.
Good dude. And on Fridays, we'd come in, we'd wax poetic a little bit. Let me tell you what, though, Mike. Nobody could go back and forth with me better on weird shit than Chad Forster. I just will put this out there because Chad and I have gone down some really interesting rabbit holes before, which we won't bore you with right now. But Marengo Mike, that's not something that we'll probably be able to do anytime soon. I have a feeling that Ken would get fired if he actually took that route.
Speaking of going down weird rabbit trails, I just have to put this up. I have to. I know this is going to upset a lot of people. I don't care, but we can do this. Okay, because if you haven't seen one of these, I just found out about this yesterday.
Oh, Jesus, it's a duck penis.
It's a duck penis. I did not know that they were corkscrews. A lady at work told me, have you ever seen a duck penis?
Yeah.
And I said, I thought this was like some kind of come on at first. And then I'm like, no.
It's a come on.
and then she showed it to me on her phone, and I was like, dear Lord, take it away. So I don't know how that works, but it's very disturbing. I'm going to take it off the screen because it's upsetting me, but I had to throw that up there.
So, Chad, that was one of your things you said not to do was Google duck penis.
I know, and I did it
anyway.
And
you had to go ahead and show us duck penis. So I'm going to show you a couple of things to wipe that away. So this is show and tell. Okay. Kyle Woody, look at this. He gave me a starting lineup, Dikembe Mutombo, who was one of my favorite players of all time, in the package. I don't know where he caught this or found this thing, but thank you, Woody. And then, of course, which is new handle on Twitter is now at 4Man's. Good God, what is it? 4Man's Fun Carousel or something?
Funhouse, I think.
Yeah, it's at 4Man's Funhouse. He gave me a Dr. Green Thumb. Okay, this is a pop head. I have a feeling there's some sort of CBD connotation with this. That's just a personal gut feeling.
So I noticed with your Dikembe Mutombo, I think that's the throwback uniform that's on him as well, which is kind of cool.
Well, this is an actual original. This is the early 1990s, late 1980s Denver Nuggets skyline uniform.
Oh, so it was current at the time, but it was.
Nowadays
we call it a throwback uniform.
Yes, we do. Now
Okay.
we would call it a throwback.
Yeah.
At the time, it was just modern. It was awful. It reminded me of the Padres. Now it looks cool. When I see it now, it looks really cool. At the time, didn't like it.
Every time I watch a Padres game, I'm expecting a UPS package. I'm like,
Yes.
is it here? Is Amazon here? And I didn't even order anything. Every time I watch them in those brown uniforms, that's what it reminds me of.
Well, you should see what Brown can do for you. And that's what we have with the Padres. Chad, as we're getting ourselves wrapped up here for week 3 of the program and sort of looking ahead to a big sports weekend, we got a lot of like little grounds to cover. The Bucks are going to host the Knicks. We'll talk about that later. I like the Bucks in this one. They're 3-0. The Knicks are 3-1. Wisconsin Badger football off this week. Next week, Kyle Wood and I are going to go to the game in Madison and watch Maryland lose to Wisconsin. So that'll be fun. The UWL Eagles are on the road versus Oshkosh. That'll be tomorrow, 1 o'clock. You can watch that actually at uwlathletics.com. You can see the game stream there. And of course, Green Bay Packer football versus the Buffalo Bills is going to be a center focus for many of us. The World Series, obviously, is going to be in play. But, Chad, I want to start off with the Green Bay Packers, if we could, because Allen Lazard, Aaron Rodgers' number 1 wide receiver, and maybe only one of 2 players outside of Randall Cobb that he really and truly, quote-unquote, trusts, is now going to be out versus the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Lazard is the team leader in receiving yards, 340, touchdown catches 4, and is tied for second in catches with Randall Cobb. So you know the Packers are already without Cobb, and he'll be out for at least another couple of weeks. Christian Watson had missed the past 2 games. Christian Watson was a second-round pick and somebody that Packer fans thought was going to be a big game player or a big game breaker for this team. So far this year has not. And, Chad, now what we're starting to see as well, I put this up on part of the graphic, the betting angle, the number is starting to go further and further away from Green Bay and more towards the Buffalo Bills at minus 11.5 for Buffalo. So here's my question to you. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't have Allen Lazard or Randall Cobb, is this going to give him an all new level of excuse making when we come to Sunday Night Football and the Packers lose, because that's most likely what's going to happen? Will this be the de facto excuse, or do you think that we'll sprinkle in some other excuses why? There could be a problem with one of the dudes in the dressing room, maybe the water boy. There could be a lot of people not doing their jobs.
I noticed it last night with Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit talking about Tom Brady. A lot of excuses. And they all could be legit, right? Because they're not gelling very well in Tampa Bay. They're not gelling very well in Packerland. They mentioned that. They mentioned Russell Wilson. They're talking about these veteran quarterbacks that have all this experience and all these accolades, just struggling this year, and the reason why, and it has to do with preseason and da-da-da-da-da. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, it's about winning, and they're not going to win this game. But I will say this. I think this is one of those stay away from games, because that spread's getting a little too – it's still the NFL. At the end of the day, it's still the NFL. 11, 12 points, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with that big of a spread, although I do think that it could end up being an ass kicking by 3 touchdowns. So I could be totally wrong. But for me, I'm staying away from it as far as gambling goes.
Listen, and I think that the smart play here is to just avoid this game, right? If you're a Packer fan especially, it becomes really hard to sort of calibrate yourself towards the Packers being so bad they're double-digit dogs. That really becomes hard to calibrate towards. And for Buffalo fans, you don't want to get yourselves too hyped up, or you don't want to get your cart way above or in front of the horse, right? Because you got to remember, this is still Aaron Rodgers, a 2-time reigning MVP and a 4-time MVP and a Super Bowl winner. At the same time, I'm looking at the against the spread record just this season, right? Because we're not talking about wins or losses necessarily, but how are these teams performing against the spread? Buffalo's 4-1-1 against the spread. The Packers are 2-5. Now,
right.
In Buffalo, Sunday Night Football, no Allen Lazard, no Randall Cobb. If we've already got trust issues with Rodgers, and again, mostly I suggest staying away from this game, but if we've already got trust issues on Rodgers' part, I wonder what it's going to take before Rodgers just pulls the plug on himself playing in this game, because we saw this a couple of years ago versus Tampa Bay. Rodgers comes out, gets banged up a little bit, throws some quick picks, and he just checks out. Chad, when the going gets tough, Rodgers gets going. I mean, he doesn't get going towards the challenge. He's like, I'm out of here.
So you thinking thumb injury? You think he may something along those lines? Is that what you're thinking? Or ayahuasca session? What are we talking about here?
Well, the ayahuasca, he couldn't get out of country fast enough to get that, right? Like, and even if you go to Florida to hang out with like the Tiger King people that try to sell you this shit, no, he couldn't have gotten out of the country fast enough. I think without Lazard, without Randall Cobb, if the game doesn't start off favorably for the Green Bay Packers, if they don't get a really good opening drive or two, I do think that what you'll see is Aaron start to hold his hand a little bit, right? We'll start to get a little bit more like, gosh, he'll look down at that thing, because let's be fair. At this particular point in Rodgers' career, his signature move is no longer the discount double check, Chad. It's the eye roll. It's looking over at somebody like, oh, God, here we go again. Oh, God, here we go again. And I don't know, man. This game could end up wrapping up really fast for the Packers. Now, if that is the case, the only reason the spread worries me is Buffalo starts putting in, like, who's their backup quarterback? It's not Mitch Trubisky anymore. Like, but at what point does Buffalo just pull Josh Allen because they're winning by so much? And then you'd start to see the second team of the Packers, maybe Jordan Love and other guys that haven't gotten reps because, they're not good enough. Maybe those guys start getting on the field and chunking up some plays because Buffalo's not really in it anymore. That's what scares me about a double-digit spread like this.
Morning Wood says, I believe the Packers offense is dressing up as the Iowa football offense for Halloween.
And that's something. Something?
I mean, I don't know if you watched a lot of the game last night, but you got a lot of that from Herb Street and Al Michaels talk. And I think a lot of it was legit. I mean, clearly you could see the frustration with Tom Brady as well. And it almost mirrors what's going on with the Packers. There's obviously a lot of assignments that are being missed, routes that are being run wrong on both teams. And clearly both veteran quarterbacks, it's making them look foolish. And so I don't know if, I think it's legitimate to say two things. I think it's legitimate to say that they're shut up and just play football, but I also think it's legitimate to say these things are happening. Now, whose fault is that? I don't know if it's the quarterback as much as it is the coach. Is it LaFleur and Bowles more than it is Brady and Aaron Rodgers?
Well, you would have to say that in some respect, yes, there's a lot to play. It's football, right? It's a tapestry. And that's why giving one guy so much credit, which we do when it's a quarterback, we give him so much credit. But that's why it's tough, because that one guy wasn't singularly responsible for any of the things that happened, okay? If the wide receiver runs a great wheel route and burns the cornerback, even if it's the number one corner in the league, did the quarterback get him to burn that guy? At the same time, the quarterback gets the interception when the wide receiver drops the pass and somebody else picks it up. It's still the quarterback's interception, not the wide receivers, right? So the idea, though, that it's a singular focus is, I think that's always, been a bit of a fallacy. But here's what I'm seeing. And Kirk Herbstreit and I watched Desmond Howard, who is a Packer fan favorite, right? Super Bowl MVP back in 1996. I watch these guys have to get real about what they're seeing. Brady looks old, and I don't care what the stats say. Over 300 and a touchdown. I did watch a lot of that game. He doesn't look good. He made a couple of plays that were nice. There's no rhythm there anymore. Aaron Rodgers similarly looks older. I wouldn't say old yet, but he looks a lot older. Is there factors, reasons? Sure. But at the same time, when these guys were a little bit younger, it felt different. It just did. It just felt a little bit different.
Well, and all you have to do is lose a half a step in the NFL, and that makes a huge difference. And, you saw Tom Brady last night have to tuck the ball and run and take a couple of big hits. That was not pretty. 45-year-old guy taking a hit from 300-pounders is not fun, I would imagine. As Michael said, it would hurt if you were 20.
I can't imagine that any of it, Chad, really feels great. Right? When you're out there getting pummeled, does any of it really feel great? No, but you're playing football. You're wearing a lot of gear. So, you hype yourself up for it. At 45 for Brady and nearly 40 for Rodgers, though, as much as it pains us all because we just love these guys, they've become national icons. For Packer fans, Rodgers has been a part of your life for 15 years. And if you're a younger Packer fan, you've never known anything other than exceptional Packer quarterback play. It's hard to see these guys age out like this. Trust me, as a Laker fan, watching those last couple of years of Kobe Bryant, where the last season Kobe played, they went 17-65. Yeah. Which actually might be this year's Lakers record, 17-65. It's awful. It really is. Now, Chad, I want to go to our Twitter feed really quick because we're starting to get a lot of votes in here on this morning's poll question. So, Morning Wood, if you haven't climbed the poll yet, please do so. That goes out there for all of y'all, too. At the Sports Carney. Okay, so go to Twitter at the Sports Carney. At 3 and 4, Chad, will the Packers make a move before the NFL trade deadline, which is coming up November 1st? The way that you can answer this are yes or no, they're the Packers. Do you want to take a guess as to the split of this morning's vote so far, 20 plus votes in?
60-40. I would say no, they're not going to make it.
95.2% no, they're the Packers, to 4.8% yes. 95.2%.
So what you're saying is that Packer fans currently are very pessimistic about the future of their team.
Well, they know that this team doesn't traditionally make these kinds of moves. Brian Gutekunst, the new GM, after Ted Thompson stepped away, has been more willing to sort of go out there and do some stuff. They've picked up Rasul Douglas, who's a cornerback, off of a practice squad. Last year, they did that before the Arizona game. He caught a couple of interceptions, made himself a name, and got a contract. It's not that the Packers are unwilling to pick people up, but the trade market, this is something we've talked about all week long. The trade market is not there for the Packers, and you have to take off your green and gold covered glasses, which I've done this week, in order to assess what the Packers could possibly get. Pittsburgh's not going to give you Chase Claypool. There's no reason for that. He's a young wide receiver. They've got a rookie quarterback. Why would you take away a rookie quarterback's best weapon? You don't do that. They're going to get an offensive lineman in the draft. They're going to go forward, and that's going to be it. If you're the Denver Broncos, do you give up on Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama yet? Do you give away Cortland Sutton because Nathaniel Hackett might not be able to, Hackett? I mean, come on. You don't know if this cat can coach or not yet. And you don't know that Russell Wilson at not but 3 or 2 years old is done yet. So I just don't see the logic in any of those teams giving players to the Green Bay Packers for what? Look at then, though, what the Philadelphia Eagles did with the Chicago Bears. This is why Packer fans are probably more pessimistic because, Chad, we didn't really talk about this, but that move, Robert Quinn going to Philadelphia, the Bears paying $7+ million of Robert Quinn's salary, giving him to the Philadelphia Eagles. If that's not a move that the Packers could or would make, then there are no moves that they will make.
My understanding is I think they only have to pay $770,000 of his salary. Yeah. And they get a 3-time Pro Bowl, defensive end. That's a brilliant move. That is a brilliant move. So, I guess the question is, will they make that move? And I know traditionally they don't make that move, but if there is a year they need to make a move, it's this year. And there is a lot of talk going around. There's all kinds of names flying around. AJ Green's a name that's come up. There's a couple of different names. Rob Dog's just asking for a franchise quarterback for the Bears. Justin Fields isn't your franchise quarterback?
We don't know that. We really don't. Watching Justin Fields against New England, I think that
he looked better.
He looked like he was doing something. And I do give Peyton and Eli Manning a lot of credit for bringing this up because we're easy to bury these guys, especially when the team's not doing great like the Bears. But Peyton and Eli both talked about the marginal improvements that they could see Justin Fields making. They didn't heap flowers on him. They didn't say this guy's the second coming of either of us, but they did showcase his marginal improvements and told the audience where it was that Justin Fields was making a move. Neil Duda, who is a Vikings fan, Skull Vikings for Vikings fans, says he hears that Kellen Mond is available. Yeah, Kellen Mond, Texas A&M quarterback, was drafted in the 3rd round by Minnesota a couple of years back, got cut this season as the season was getting ready to start. A lot of folks thought that he might maybe take over at quarterback for Kirk Cousins, with the change of coach and Mike Zimmer. Yeah. This dude was cut. They brought in, I think, who was the guy they brought in, Viking fans? Was it Trevor Siemian? Who's your second string quarterback now? Basically, if Kirk Cousins doesn't get hurt, these cats are never seeing the field anyways. But Kellen Mond's out there. He's
5-1. Vikings 5-1. Pretty amazing, really, when you think about it. And you guys can see Minnesota from your house, so that's cool.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
So you can.
We can.
At some point here, this is going to happen. If they get their ass kicked, the Packers get their ass kicked by the Bills. You just slowly start to go the other way. Just turn your head right from your porch. Oh, I got a team right there. They're called the Vikings. What am I doing?
Yeah, that's the hard part for Packer fans because then they know exactly what Viking fans know, and that is that once they go to the playoffs, then it's just it's all over. Let's see. Rob Dog's checking back in here. He says, so it's safe now to say that people in my college classes who think Green Bay destroys Buffalo are on a whole different planet. And who is Rodgers going to get fired or blame this time? We'd kind of talked about that, Rob, but you're right. The firings, again, not a Green Bay Packer thing to do for the most part. Mike McCarthy was the only coach to ever get fired midseason in Packer history. They just don't do that, right? It's just not a thing. So I don't think that we'll see anybody get canned. Matt LaFleur's got too much early success to get fired in the middle of a season. He just does. At the same time, the blame game, Rob, that's going to be interesting. That's what Chad and I kind of opened with. Who's going to get blamed the most? Who's going to be the one that's going to be at Rodgers? on Pat McAfee's show next Tuesday, who's going to be the one that Rodgers like, I'm going to tell you what, this guy carried my bag. What an asshole. I won't name his name, Brad, but, I don't know who he's going to blame next. That's a great question.
I would have to say, though, like, if you didn't know anything about football and you're not paying attention to the NFL and you heard that Matt LaFleur was a coach, what sport do you think he would be? Sounds like a hockey coach. That sounds like a hockey coach.
Fair.
He sounds like he's like coaching the Canadians. You know what I mean?
The other thing, and this is what we all loved, if you remember the incredible documentary film called Dodgeball with Rip Torn. And who was the guy? It was LaFleur, right? It was LaFleur.
Yeah,
so
you can
really,
dodge a rich, you can dodge a ball.
All right, let's take a quick pause. Say hi to some of our amazing friends here on the Sports Carnival. When Chad and I come back, no Bob Ibeck, but let's talk a little World Series baseball. We've got some betting numbers, a pitching matchup, and we'll give you Bob's thoughts because I talked to him yesterday. Stick around, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
Broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios, this is the Sports Carnival, where I just invented a new word. You know what it is? Plagiarism. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
Hey, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it here first. That's for sure. I saw that someplace else. Welcome back to the program. It's fun to have everybody here on a Friday. I know that at some point we're going to get back into a funky Friday rhythm. Chad and I are trying to figure out which music license to steal or buy. And so if you happen to be a funk music artist and you want to send us all of your music, please do so. Hit us up on social media at The Sports Carney. Chad, just found out yesterday, this is kind of fun. So our YouTube channel is getting a lot of viewership. We still need more subscribers. So we'd love it if you could subscribe to YouTube at The Sports Carnival. And hashtag not Patton Oswalt is Chad. But I did find out yesterday from YouTube, Chad, that we actually have our own official YouTube handle now. So it used to be YouTube-XYZ46. Anyways, so now all you have to do is search at the Sports Carnival on YouTube and you'll be directed right to our page. And this is largely thanks to the 87 plus subscribers that we have had who have spent so much time watching our videos and watching our live stream. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been a blast. Coming up next week, we are going to be live on Podbean. So you can download the Podbean app and begin to listen to the program live. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to keep your cell phone open. A lot of our audience members, Chad, are drivers. Neil Duda starts a new job on Monday. He'll be driving, and his drive is going to make it to where he can't interact with the show as much. But Neil, you can still take it with you, listen to it. Neil did say that the Vikings traded for Nick Mullins in the offseason. That's who I was trying to figure out. It was Nick Mullins in the offseason. Safe to say, Neil says, if Kirk Cousins goes down, the season is over. And if he doesn't, it most likely won't be in a Super Bowl victory. That's fair, too. Kirk Cousins is a fine quarterback. He really is. He's fine. He's not
no Nick Mullins.
He's fine.
He's no Nick Mullins. I don't even know who the hell Nick Mullins is. I've never even heard that name before. That sounds made up.
It's not. I know that he's a player. I mean, he's on a roster, so there is that. And I appreciate, Neil, you checking in there. Rob Dog from Stoddard corrects me with Trevor Siemian is the Bears' number 2 quarterback. Nathan Peterman, good God, a guy that never saw an interception he didn't want to throw is the number 3 quarterback. He says Fields better not go down. Nate Peterman, I think, for Buffalo, threw 5 interceptions and 7 passes one time.
Nate Peterman. There's another name I've never heard of.
Because he's horrible.
I cannot keep that much in my head. I'm not going second string, third string quarterbacks. I don't know who assistant GMs are. I'm sorry. I'm just not going that way. I can't do it.
Well, that's why one of the shows that we were going to do a long time ago was going to be the third string, right? Or what was it? The third string.
Third string. Third string was the name of one of the shows. I did a public access for a while, and it was I had a public access television show, and it was called Third String. And I actually suggested that on a radio show that I was going to do that ended up becoming Over and Under.
That's right.
But it offended the other guy because he's, that's kind of offensive. I'm like, yeah, it's self-deprecating humor. Don't take it so seriously.
Well, he got himself so seriously. He's slogging away in Houston right now, which I'm sure he's getting ready for. Getting ready for tonight's World Series game, Phillies and Astros.
Sure.
Really quick, Woody sent this in here. Packers should be sellers. In my opinion, they need to go 7-3 down the stretch just to get in the playoffs, no matter what moves there are that they could potentially make. Nothing will get them to 7-3. Trade Dillon, see if anybody would bite on anyone else. Yeah, this is a tough one because you look at the Packers schedule, and Chad, we talked about that this week. When you see that they're at Buffalo, and then they go to, I want to say they're at Philadelphia, right? Then they're going to be home for a stretch. They've got the Cowboys at home. I know they've got the Rams at home. This is not a favorable stretch of games for the Packers. You really look at this remaining schedule and say, if the Packers can go, if they've got 3 more wins in this thing, the way it's currently looking, not to say that they can't turn this thing around because that's not out of the question yet, but the way it's currently looking, I don't know where those 7 wins come from. I really and truly don't.
I think 6 games till their bye week. Their bye week is week 14, and you and I identified possibly the Bears, possibly the Lions, possibly the Titans.
Possibly.
They're going to lose against the Eagles. They're going to lose against the Bills. It's going to, I can't remember the other team, but yes, the
Rams you've got out there. Minnesota's still on the slate.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a tough road to hoe for the Packers. And this weekend going to probably be their biggest challenge. Now, here's the caveat to that. Let's just say some miracle happens and they actually win this weekend. That can be one of those victories that totally changes the season and they go into a different direction. The likelihood of that is probably 0.5%. But you're saying there's a chance.
You're saying there's a chance. And until that game is played and we see the final score up there in Buffalo, there is a chance. There is a chance. And I will say that, Chad, you're right. If the Green Bay Packers go to Buffalo on Sunday Night Football, considering that Allen Lazard, if you're just joining us now, Allen Lazard is out. Randall Cobb is still out. Christian Watson has been limited. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been at practice the last couple of days. David Bakhtiari, the left tackle that the Packers gave a huge contract to, who hasn't really played for the last 2 years, still dealing with his injury. Guys and gals, if Green Bay wins this game, yes, Chad, this changes everything. Jason Breacher, P1 Breach, checks in and says, this could be Buffalo's trap game. And I would say
be looking past is what he's saying, basically. Yeah,
they could be. But this is why I don't think that will happen this year, because Buffalo is one of those teams, and you can see this in the history of the NFL, where you sort of get a team building towards that Super Bowl, or at least that Super Bowl appearance. You saw it with the Rams. They go with Jared Goff and Todd Gurley, get waxed by Bill Belichick in the finals, right, or in the Super Bowl. Then they come back a couple of years later, new quarterback, same coaching staff, some different pieces, of course, but they get that Super Bowl victory against the Bengals. We saw this, back in the day with the Denver Broncos, needing to go through so many different hurdles before they get to the Super Bowl. What I saw from Buffalo last year, losing like they did to Kansas City, okay, before Kansas City falls to Cincinnati, was one of those stepping stones. And the reason, Breacher, I do not believe this is a look ahead or a trap game for Buffalo is because I think this Buffalo team right now, currently constructed, is the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. And I see them making this ascension move. I really do. This is what happens when you get a guy in his real prime, like Josh Allen, who wants to make his mark on the NFL. Josh Allen wants to be MVP. The Buffalo Bills, they need to make this game a statement game, because if they lose, that's going to what would that do to their season? I mean, think about that. Put that on them. What does that do to their season?
And we talked about it yesterday. I mentioned it yesterday. Aaron Rodgers does really well in primetime games. But guess what? Josh Allen probably wants to perform well in primetime game too. So I think that for that fact alone, I mean, maybe if this was like a Sunday morning game or something like that, and it was on primetime and all that, maybe it would be a look ahead, look past game. But I think when you're on prime time, no matter who your opponent is, you don't want to look like an asshole in front of millions of people, right?
Indeed.
Especially against a struggling team, no matter who the other opposing quarterback is.
No doubt. And this is why we have a poll question up this morning about the Packers at the Sports Carney. Climb our poll. Let us know your thoughts. Are they going to make a move? Because they probably have to. So we juxtaposed the Sunday night football game, and we talked about this yesterday with our poll question, which old quarterback looks the worst, Brady or Rodgers, right? Well, last night, Brady, statistically, again, lies, damn lies, and statistics. When you look at his stat sheet, you're like, man, he doesn't turn the ball over. He throws for over 300. He puts a touchdown on the board. This guy had a good game. No, he didn't. And his team lost, and they lost in front of a national audience. That's another thing. That's why it was so embarrassing for Brady last night, because you're now losers of 5 of your last 6 games. You're losing to a team in Baltimore who has had leads on everybody but couldn't keep them on anybody. And yet you lose that game. And the second half, when Tampa Bay started off that second half up 10-3, and they started to let Lamar Jackson run wild on him.
Oh, man.
You could just really tell the tides had turned. And that's where I think about singular primetime games like the magnitude of them isn't lost. And what did we see last night? The younger, more mobile quarterback defeating the older, more stoic pocket passer. Not that Rodgers and Brady aren't going to be remembered as the two greatest possibly of the generation, but you've still got Lamar Jackson at 25 and Josh Allen's like 26. These guys are ascending, and the other dudes, let's be fair, are descending.
And Lamar Jackson is one of those, 1 out of a million type of guys. I mean, when he touches the football, it kind of reminded me last night. It's exciting. It reminded me of watching Barry Sanders, because when Barry Sanders touched the football, even if he lost 5 yards, it was the most exciting play you've ever seen. And Lamar Jackson's very similar. They can just turn shit into something, even if they only gain 1 or 2 yards. There was a play, and Kirk Herbstreit pointed it out, where he misread it, right? It was an option play, and he misread it. And the guy that he misread that should have tackled him, he made him miss, and he still ended up gaining 4 yards. It's absolutely spectacular. You and I were kind of talking off the air. Like, when you think of greatest mobile quarterbacks of all time, he's got to be at the top of your list. Obviously, Michael Vick's in there. Steve Young's in there. We can go way back and go Fran Tarkington. A lot of people don't remember, but John Elway was very mobile. But Lamar Jackson may be the best at it. And not to mention, when he does decide to hang in the pocket, like a normal quarterback, traditional quarterback, he's not bad there either. He's got a hell of a gun.
He really does. And we're even forgetting Cam Newton, who Lamar Jackson became, I think, tied with Cam Newton as the only 2 quarterbacks in NFL history to run for over 500 yards each of their first 5 seasons, also throw for over 1,000 passing yards each of their first 5 seasons. And I know when we said, picking up shit, I kind of got distracted because I thought of our friend Joe at Helping Hands Landscaping. So, Joe, if you've got needs for dog poop removal, or if you've got lawn care that you need taken care of, or snow removal coming up in this wintertime in La Crosse or on Alaska, call our friend Joe at Helping Hands Landscaping. Chad, you know what I'm really excited about too? The weather this weekend. It's going to be like 68, 70 degrees for like the next week. That's pretty fun. So snow not needing to be picked up, but dog poop, yes.
I think there's a possibility that Joe may be needed in the Green Bay Packer locker room, because there's going to be a lot of shit there as well. You're going to be able to pick that contract up, Joe.
Yeah, baby. Wouldn't that be something? We all of a sudden find out that Joe from Helping Hands is now going to be helping the actual Packers clean up their shit. That would be something. You need a big truck, Joe. I don't know if you've got that one on tap yet.
This is a good Neil Duda. Coincidentally, I pitched a show called The G String to a local public access TV station, but for some reason they weren't takers. Yeah, probably
not here. I think that in Vegas, if you would have pitched that to the CW, which is the station I believe that you did that on back in the day, I know right where it was. It was on like Spring Mountain near Sahara. They had that old TV station over there.
I remember the racist frog they used to have on. I'm the WB.
Wasn't that so bad?
I used to make fun of the guy that was the PR guy, and I would do that in front of him, and he would always get embarrassed. I'm like, I can't believe you guys put that on TV. That's horrible.
You know what? I believe after enough public backlash, and this must have been 2009 or something, I think they took that off. God, it was bad. I see that UWL Thomas is checking in. He says, I'm late, but I made it. Thomas, we love you, buddy. And don't forget, you can always download the podcast later for your listening pleasure.
Absolutely. Let's just, because people are late, let's just make sure. This is a disclaimer, okay? I just want to make sure everybody knows that I am not Patton Oswalt.
And how do we know this? Let's see the visual evidence.
Oh, I have to pull up the visual evidence now?
I don't know.
Okay,
I thought you were going visual evidence. You wanted people
wasn't
to know.
going to. I just want, you know what? Then we will. We've got time. It's our show. We can do what we want, right? So it just takes me a few steps, but I'm getting better at this. I've been practicing. So here we go.
Boosh.
There you go. Not Patton Oswalt. We'll take that off there so you can get the full visual. This guy right here, not Patton Oswalt. This, Patton Oswalt. Creepy, fat, weird guy. Chubby kind of white guy. It's just, you know what? All white guys don't look alike, damn it. Okay?
Not all. Not all. I do know for a fact that some of our younger listeners, at least this is what John told me in between mewing sessions yesterday. Nobody thinks that you have aged. They feel like you have lived in some sort of like hyperbolic chamber because John says to me, he was like, so Chad looks like he's in his 30s. And I told him, that's wrong, but I'll tell Chad that you said that. So there you go. Not Patton Oswalt. And also, you don't age. Do you see the sun? Like, do you go out to see the sun?
I'm not that pale, am I?
I don't know. I was just asking because of how cherubic you still look.
Cherubic means fat, okay?
No,
I know what that means.
No, that means angelic. That means angelic.
It's not. It means rotund. Cherubic is something that they said about Santa Claus, okay?
No, cherubs are those little, angel things. They come down and shoot arrows and
I know, dude, you don't be. I'm going to start mewing in between this break. Okay.
Hey, let's see if Bryce Harper mewed. I know we don't have a lot really to dissect on this World Series game because it hasn't gotten played. I did talk to Bob Ibeck last night about this particular matchup. Bob was going to join us. So I guess what we'll do is we'll wait. We'll come back and we'll show some World Series stuff. Huh? How does that sound?
That sounds good to me.
All right, let's do it. We'll be back.
The official lending team and mortgage partner of the Sports Carnival is the Midwest Mortgage Team of Land Home Financial. You know I like to tell a joke or two and play around, have fun. But getting a mortgage is no funny business. Don't play around with your finances. Call my good friends Michael Garcia and Todd Bercuzzi of the Midwest Mortgage Team at Land Home Financial today. Whether you're buying your first house, maybe you're buying your second house, maybe you're a seasoned real estate investor. Midwest Mortgage Team, Land Home Financial, Michael Garcia and Todd Bercuzzi. Give my good friends a call today. They're the official mortgage team of the Sports Carnival.
Back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the Sports Carnival. I think Samuel Beckett said it best. We're all born mad. Some remain so. Here's your host, Dave Carney, Neil Duda.
Let's do this all night.
Nice.
So Samuel L. Jackson once said, I'm a bad motherfucker. And that's exactly what Neil Duda is right there. I love this sound, man. We were listening to this yesterday, and Neil,
it grows on you.
Dude, we were digging it.
At first, you're like, what is this trash? No offense, Neil. And then it's just kind of like, it's like that person that is kind of annoying, but they grow on you, kind of like that.
Yeah.
That's this song. Both songs, actually. You know what? He's got some skills. I have to give it up to Neil.
Neil's got DJ skills. He's got a little white boy rapping skills, and he's got good skills of out kicking his coverage too. Neil's wife is beautiful.
Out kicking his coverage. Wow. Yeah. That, you know what? Yeah, all these little secret ways of, insulting people. I like that. That's
listen, good. In Wisconsin, we talk about this We talk about this all the time. I have no idea what the recipe is, but there is more out kicking your coverage here than Chad I have ever seen in my entire life. I really and truly mean that, because this is a beautiful state. I mean, really beautiful state. Listen, some guys are just, they're way above their heads. And, Neil, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
So I'm in the wrong part of the country is what you're saying.
Well, we're asking you to move out here. We're basically begging you. We've got a lot of spots for you here, big guy. We'd love to have you. Jeremy
Foreman says that it's not a secret.
No, and Neil has no shame in this. I mean, he really doesn't. Neil's just like, this is the thing. Neil's a cool motherfucker. Like, that's why. Because Neil's just
he's a white guy that can rap. Of course he's cool.
Exactly. And Chad, Bryce Harper, I don't know if this kid could rap. I bet he tried once or twice in Vegas. But Bryce Harper and the Phillies, they take on the Astros tonight. Game 1 of the World Series. We've waited a whole week for this one. And I was talking to Bob Ibeck about this game yesterday and this matchup. As you can see, we've got Phillies Astros here. We've got the numbers. This is actually from ESPN's Bet Prediction Center here. So you might be able to find different numbers if you shop them around. But here's the takeaway from Bob Ibeck. The way that the Phillies are hitting the baseball right now, if they continue to hit the baseball like they are and win game 1, Bob puts the Phillies into the driver's seat of this series. He says, however, and you brought this up earlier, the pitching matchup, Justin Verlander led the league in ERA this year. I believe he was 1.88, and that's where the Astros team ERA is during this postseason. If the Houston Astros get ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies, Bob says, the Phillies are going to be dead and buried just because of the pitching. Now, Phillies hitting the ball, as I said, really well. They lead the majors in this postseason in home runs, in RBI. They're doing a great job. Conversely, though, the pitching that Houston has is deadly. It really is. So Bob thinks if the Phillies go down early, that's pretty much it. If Philadelphia wins one of these 2 games in Houston, then he gives them a puncher's chance. I don't know exactly what percentage he put on it. He didn't tell me, but he gives them a puncher's chance to win the series. I like Philly in this one. I really do. There's something about the momentum that Philly has coming into this. You've got Bryce Harper, a kid who won 2 league MVPs, one with the Washington Nationals, one with Philadelphia, who I think needs this as almost like a legacy play. If Bryce wins this World Series, Chad, we talked about it the other day, all of the hype and like literally all of it from when he was 16 on Sports Illustrated's cover to now would be completely justified. First ballot Hall of Famer, absolutely no question already. But you put this World Series ring on his finger, and Bryce Harper goes down as one of the only baseball players, Chad, that I can really remember that had so much hype leading into his pro career that actualized all of it. Like all of it. I don't recall many others because obviously we weren't old enough to remember some from back in the day. So I don't know what Mickey Mantle was like in high school. But
sure.
Seeing where Bryce Harper was from and the hype train that followed him through his whole career to actually be able to live up to that, it's pretty spectacular. I mean, he's like the LeBron James of baseball, just without the hardware, without the rings.
I would say Mickey Mantle in high school was probably drunk, just a guess.
Yeah, probably started there, didn't it?
I don't know that for sure, but I have a feeling he was
poor Mick
sucking down a few cold ones. I actually like this move by the Phillies, starting Aaron Nola over Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler being their ace. Zach was lights out against the Padres. I like this. I mean, you're kind of conceding, but I think it's a smart move. Justin Verlander is going to be the Cy Young Award winner in the American League. There's no doubt about that. He's lights out. You know what? You give yourself a shot to split this by starting Zach Wheeler in game 2. Now, obviously, Bryce Harper is amazing, but there's a couple other guys on that team that have also played really well. One of them being Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber, who apparently a Cub, when he was drafted by the Cubs, one of the guys that was scouting him said, if you squint, they convinced him, right? They convinced the Cubs to actually draft him. You squint, he kind of reminds you of Babe Ruth. I don't know if I go that far, but that dude launched a 488-foot home run, in the last series. So you got a couple of dudes that can pick it up for him. I think their bats are great, but man, Houston obviously undefeated in this postseason. Their pitching staff is definitely superior. But I agree with Bob. If they're able to split, then it becomes a series. If they go down 2-0, it's over with. It's that simple.
That's the way it feels right now. Of course, these World Series can take on so many different twists and turns, but that is the way that it feels. And you can see, as evidenced, if you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, on Twitter, or on LinkedIn, you can see that Vegas feels about the same way. The number for this game, as evidenced, when you see the money line, guys, and for those that are not really into gambling, this kind of indicates how much of a favorite a team is. So it's different than the run line in baseball, the puck line in hockey, or the point spreads in basketball or football. The money line essentially tells you what the sharp bettors think about these two teams and who's got the power rating, boost. And this is Houston, minus 170. They've given Houston a minus 1.5 on the run line, meaning that Houston would have to win by 2 runs tonight in order to cover this spread. But if you just wanted to make a play on the Astros to win tonight, you lay down $1.70 in order to win $1. So there's a little bit of juice. If you like Philadelphia, you're getting some pretty good money here. Plus 143 on the line. So if you put down $1, you'd win $1.43 and plus 1.5 on that run line. So if Philly loses this game tonight, 4-3, and you put some money down on Philly plus 1.5, you would win this bet. They wouldn't win the game, but you would win the bet.
I've always said if you gamble baseball, you may have a gambling problem. If you gamble hockey, you have a gambling problem. These are tough. Now there's guys out there that do pretty well at it, but for me, betting baseball and hockey is That's next level betting. I mean, it's a little bit more difficult to bet that than it is basketball and football, in just my opinion.
It is.
But yes, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because there's probably a lot of people that don't know what that money line means. And I always use 100. So you have to bet $170 to win 100.
Sure.
But that's good to point that out, because I mean, there may be a few people out there, obviously not our normal P1s. I'm sure they're all well schooled in that, but there may be people out there that don't understand that.
Well, right. And so even P1s that maybe bet infrequently sometimes forget exactly what these things mean in totality, and why it's important to, especially if you're making wagers, to look at that money line, even if you don't want to make a wager on that money line, because what that money line concludes in a lot of ways, and what it includes, is power rating indexes and what the bookmakers think about the overall winnability of that game. That's when you see the ESPN stats and analytics where it looks like 65% chance to win this football game, right? That's what the money line is essentially saying. Jimmy Haggerty of Stone Distribution fame says he definitely outkicked his coverage, man. That's no lie either. Jimmy, you're a beautiful man, though, and Abby's, she's hot, dude. She's hot. So you're right. Good call.
Maybe we need to share pictures of people's wives just so that I can get acclimated and know.
We can.
Is that cool? Will they be all right with that, or will they be in the doghouse if they're doing
I think most of these guys would be super happy to pump it up. I saw that Neil Duda's like, thanks, guys. I say that sums me up perfectly. And here we've got Morning Wood. Heard the song that plays in the stadium after the Astros win is Todd Rundgren's bang on the drum. Yes. Yes. Good call. Also,
Joey Miller saying Phillies in 5. I think that's more of a want than it is a reality, because I want that too. I want the Phillies to win. I do.
Oh, me too.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm not sure that it isn't. I like Philadelphia. I think, for whatever it's worth, the momentum that Philadelphia is playing with offensively is going to carry them through, because we've talked about this many times. Does good defense beat good offense? No, because the best hitters, like the truly best hitters in the best ways, figure it out. The pitchers are great, and they can definitely have those magnificent impacts. But the truly best hitters and players figure that out, and that's why they end up becoming winners. That's one of the reasons I like Philadelphia in this spot. You mentioned Kyle Schwarber. I'm curious to see if his sister Pebbles is going to be coming to the game tonight, because I heard she was dressing up in the throwback Flintstones jerseys that they wore as a kid. That's if you squint who Kyle Schwarber looks like to me. Looks like fucking Bam Bam. I could see him with like a big Brontosaurus, like bone as his bat or something.
That's just reminds me of, just to make sure everybody knows, just because you may resemble somebody doesn't mean you are them. But I agree with you. I never saw that, but you're right. He does look like Bam Bam, huh?
He does. And listen, I was all about Pebbles. Chad, our poll question at the Sports Carney continues to get more and more interaction, and the votes are starting to even out just a little bit, not a ton. If you're just joining late, and I know Neil's checking off, go to Twitter at the Sports Carney. Here's the question. At 3 and 4, will the Packers make a move before the NFL trade deadline, which is coming up on the 1st of November? The way that you can answer this is yes or no. They're the Packers. 82.8 still say no. They're the Packers. However, the Packers started off, the yes part of this was only like 4.2%. That's now up to 17.2% of respondents say the Packers make a move. I don't think it's likely. I don't think that there's anybody out there that's enough of an impact-making player. Now that Robert Quinn's gone, he's with Philadelphia. I don't see that there's another impact player. I really don't. I don't know who that was. If you're thinking A.J. Green, you're thinking about the Bengals A.J. Green when he was playing with Andy Dalton. That dude ain't here either. So I just don't think there's a trade out there that would make any sense. Like, why would the Packers give up draft capital when they could be picking in the top, 10 or 15?
But it also lets you know where your team's at. To me, that Eagles move lets me know the Eagles want to win this year. That's a move to say, yeah, you know what, we're all in. We're going to spend the money. Not to mention they got a smoking deal. If the Packers don't make a move, that pretty much just tells me they're moving on. That this year is what it is, and see you next season. That's basically what it means.
Yeah, it really kind of does. But this is where I'm hedging. This basically means we're going to see you next season, because at this point, I don't see what the Green Bay Packers could really go out there and acquire that would change all of this that marginally, or that magnificently, I should say. All right, boys and girls, we're kind of out of time, but this has been a really fun Friday show. Thank you all so much for joining us here and for all the comments. I know Chad and I really appreciate it. To all of our great supporters, Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate, Midwest Mortgage Team, Preferred Insurance, The Recovery Room, and of course, Joe's Helping Hand Landscaping. Thanks, guys. We'll see you on Monday.
Hashtag dead ball bitching.